Might be a few seconds early.
Good afternoon. It's David Saline and Chris Goley from Drive. And today we have JB Burkhauser of Bolt On with us. Welcome, JB.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. We always enjoy having outside vendors come and talk to our client base and everybody out here. But today what we want to talk about is, let's think about the automotive world and what we do in our shops and what we're doing. What are we in business for? Well, our primary function is to work on vehicles. That's what we sell. We sell completed work done on vehicles. Everything else that you do in the business is wrapped around that. And the big thing on it is that if you want to increase your profits, increase your sales and everything else, what it is how do you keep the wrenches turning and get more work done in a shorter amount of time? And what are the inefficiencies that happen in a normal repair shop that can be prevented in a way? And I know, JB, you have a lot, Bolt On has a lot of offerings and stuff that helps with that. But let's just take some of the basic things that I wanted to start off with is the inefficiencies that happen in a shop that we get used to, and we don't know how much it's actually costing us.
I mean, Dave, that's exactly right. I've been in the business 35 plus years, and I know that I can walk into a shop and I'm going to find a vehicle sitting up there waiting for parts. We all know that this is going to happen. We all know this is going to be a problem, but we still deal with it. We still let it happen every day. And the thing is, there's tools and things in place. You're never going to fully eliminate that problem, but you can limit how much it costs you. And if that vehicle's up there for 15 minutes and you have $100 flat rate, fee, that's $25 that you're not going to see again. So making changes in how you do your process, your service process itself, is very important, and taking a step back and looking at what you're doing. And even though it's worked, that's what, hey, this is the way we've always done it. A lot of people say, even though it's worked for 20 years, decades, or whatever it might be, doesn't mean it's right.
No, it's just what you're used to.
Well, you start thinking, I just did some quick math on this right here on a calculator while you're speaking there. And it's funny, you take $25 per vehicle waiting on parts while it's sitting on the rack as an inefficiency. And you take, let's just say 25 vehicles a week that happens to, and just 15 minutes is what we're talking about. 15 minutes delayed waiting on parts on 25 vehicles a week, 52 weeks a year. What you're looking at is $32,000 just on that 15 minutes per vehicle. And there's a lot more than just waiting on parts, waiting on customer authorizations, waiting on things to flow through the shop can cause that too.
And here's another one. And I know that Bolt On's product actually addresses this in a very efficient way. So you have a technician working on a vehicle and some problem comes up. And now he's got to inform the service advisor that he needs this additional part or this additional thing is needed, whatever it might be. And if you don't have an efficient way of communicating that, what can happen in a shop is that technician's now waiting for the service advisor, say, to get off the phone to tell them what exactly is going on. And then that's another 15 minutes or another 20 minutes or longer, depending on what's going on with the service advisor. And then the technician gets onto a different job while that's all being sorted out. And that's all lost time.
I call that the walk to talk.
Yep.
Because there's no such thing, as a straight line from the bay to the service desk and vice versa, because the tech's going, if they do actually do a straight line, just as you mentioned already, Chris, you got customers, you got the phone and all this stuff going on, and it's dead time. And if it's not, they're going out for a cigarette and they're doing whatever, and all that is lost time. That if we use the chat function that's built in the mobile manager, just speech to text, tell them what's going on and hit send, and that little bubble is going to pop up at that front desk, and they're going to be able to see, whoa, we need to get another part or whatever it might be. And hopefully that technician still continues doing what they have to do in the bay, and no time is lost because the advisor can see it pop up and know as soon as they get off the phone with the customer or whatever, they have to address it.
Exactly.
Well, and you're talking that walk to talk, and it's funny because I've seen this in a shop before on here. If you look at it, the technicians, when they walk up to the front, They don't, it's just not the cigarette break or waiting on the service advisor in the front. They're going to stop and talk to every technician, see how they're doing, what they're doing. But not only is that inefficient for that technician in the job he's working on, but it's inefficient for the other technicians that were busy working and now they're talking. So this is a big thing that's on there. You know, what I would recommend, if you really want to look at that on wasted time in your shop, follow about 4 or 5 jobs a week through the shop with a stopwatch and watch and see, you know, click out, name out, oh, they stopped for this, they had to stop for this, they got held up on it. And you'd be surprised just how many minutes that is each day. And then add it up for a week, add it up for a year like I just did, and put the dollar amount to it. And I'm sure your eyes will be blown wide open on what's going on.
Exactly.
And to go back and paraphrase something that you said earlier when we started this, Dave, was that if you really think about it, the bay is where all the money's made. All right. Yes, your advisor is going to upsell and things of that sort, but that technician working and kept working, and I'm not saying being a slave driver either, but that technician being working is where the money's coming from. Everything that they do, their skills and their time is what's paying for all the bills. So if you think about it, everything outside that bay is there to support that technician. So why don't we have processes in place, you know, like the chat that we just discussed, that is going to keep that tech focused on what they're doing as opposed to walking away and wasting all that time? That stopwatch idea is really good. I'm a big fan of stopping, stepping back, and looking at things, and maybe even asking somebody to come in that doesn't follow what's going on. They don't know how your shop works. Maybe they have no experience, but they might see something that's blaringly crazy, that's wasting time, and they may just turn around, well, why are you guys doing that? You know, an example that I'll give here is one of the shops I visit, every oil change, they vacuum the vehicle and they do the windows. And I was like, well, that's a great thing, and their customers appreciate it. But here was the problem with that. They brought the vehicle to the bay door, and then they proceeded to do the vacuuming. They proceeded to doing all the rest of the work. And then they pulled it in and started doing the oil change and the filter and the inspection and all that. And I said, you realize that you're losing time here. That vacuuming and cleaning should be done after the oil change is done, after the inspection is done. Why that technician's turned it in for an okay, whatever they found, that's when they should be doing this, instead of walking around and smoking a cigarette. And please don't get me wrong, I come from the older days where a lot of cigarette smoking actually did work in the shop, but no longer, I know. But the point being is, instead of them standing around, they're doing something proactive, and that's less wasted time. And if that's 5 minutes on every job, and you do 10 oil changes a day, that's almost an hour gained.
Yeah. And, you know, the other side of this coin is that the technicians, if you're paying them correctly, are going to make more money in bonuses or their flat rate or whatever if the shop is more efficient. So we're not talking about doing things that are going to cause problems with your technicians. We're talking about little inefficiencies that add up to big amounts of time over the course of a year and big dollars over the course of the year. And, you know, Drive has taught workflow from day one, before we even had tablets to work with. And it was a very organized system, but it was paper. And the technician would still have to walk over to the office to drop off paperwork and do things. And the digital systems that are available today from Bolt-On are much more efficient than that. They take that efficiency and they ramp it up by a huge factor, just because it's all digital.
Just knowing bolt-on system too, it's not just in the shop that it improves his efficiency. It's the communication with the customers, the speed in which they do that, the speed at which you get authorization. Because I know pictures are worth 1,000 words, as we've always said over here. But when the customer sees a picture of the broken part and says, okay, it's no longer how much or anything else. It's okay. I see it's broken. I need to fix it. Let's get it fixed.
And
yeah, that's a huge thing.
I mean, and that's all true, because think about how much time is lost when you're writing on the paperwork and then you give it to the advisor and they have to interpret. My writing was so bad, they always call me Dr. John. And then they would have to call me up there to read and tell them what I was doing. So now when you're doing it on that digital tablet, you can use voice to speech to text, and it works really, really well. So if you have a tech that tells stories, they can tell stories still, and now it's going to take a lot less time. And then the inspections, the paper inspection's dead. When the paper inspection used to come to me at the service desk when I was an advisor, I didn't care about the green, maybe a little bit about the yellow, but I saw the red. And that was my job to sell all that stuff. And that's where the inspections got such a bad name. Because, you know, I would just go to the customer with that after I've spent all that time going through writing things, looking things up and doing all this stuff. And now I'm talking to the customer about with a digital inspection, they have the ability with just a few taps to fill in a line, choose the color, you know, what the urgency is, and then send that right out to a desk. The desk does a quick look over, and then they send it to the customer. And as you already said, Dave, seeing is believing.
Absolutely.
They may not fully understand what they're seeing, but they're going to, if it's done right and the picture's done right, they're going to understand that that's what the problem is and this is why it needs to be repaired.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there's also another piece you just brought up, the technology. Embracing technology in your shop is so important in today's world, and customers appreciate it. But also when you're talking about the speech to text, and even if they're typing it in, I don't know how many times I've sat at a service desk on a paper system and try to decipher text notes and their shorthand and their abbreviations. And as a service advisor, you're like, okay, what does this abbreviation mean? Or, you know, after time, you may get used to it, but half the time you're like, can you read what you wrote over here? Because I can't.
And
those
they
are
all come up with their own little language, right? Their own little
Mhm.
shorthand.
Absolutely. And, you know, why do we have to go? And think about this. How many times has a VIN number been misinterpreted? 17 digits to get wrong, right? Whereas you can scan it with the tablet and it immediately recognizes it right the first time and every time. Instead of doing that dance that I used to do with a scrap of paper, run out to the car, write it down, come back, go, oh, crap, go, you know, back and forth. All these things that we do daily, we don't even think about how much time it costs us.
Well, and I think this is a good conversation because you're bringing up the VIN number on there. I know how many times you wrote down a VIN number, you put it into the computer system, you key it in, and you know what? The one time you find out the VIN number is wrong is when you go order the parts come in and they're the wrong parts.
Absolutely. And let's add to that this, Dave. When you decode the VIN using the tablet technology, if that vehicle has multiple builds, different automatic manual, four-wheel drive, ABS, blah, 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 all those things will be listed when you're identifying the vehicle. And while you're standing next to it, you see ABS and everything automatic. You tap on that. So not only is the VIN correct, but the build data that the parts people are going to be asking for is also correct.
Yeah, that's huge right there in terms of time savings.
And, you know, further time savings is that as the technician does their work, or if you're using our software and you're printing a lubrication sticker, we're looking at what's being done today, and without the advisor doing anything except for printing, or even the technician doing the printing, we're automatically putting all those recommendations right in that management system. The advisor doesn't have to go back later and add them all. It's already there. And know what? We're also going to set the appointments up for all those things too. And that's all done with a single click. Whereas if you're using paper, that's all manual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the automatic reminder that goes out to the customer as a text a week in advance. Again, the shop, you're busy working on what you have in your shop today. Why would you be worrying about next week when you don't have to? Because automatically a text goes to the customer and goes, hey, you're due for your oil change next week. Send back the letter C to confirm you're coming in, and we'll be waiting for you. And here's a piece to that puzzle. If a shop does what I always have done, I always look ahead in the schedule to see what's coming in. If I see a job with that confirmed in front of it, I'm going to take a look and see why they're coming in, because everything's already there. And I'm going to look and see what parts I don't have in stock. And I'm going to pick up the phone and call the parts shop, you know, and say, listen, next week, next Friday, I have a car coming in. I need this air filter, blah, blah, blah. Can you guys just drop that stuff off on one of your regular trips? And they're going to say, absolutely, because They're going to save gas. Well, right now, heck with gas prices, but they're going to save brakes, gas, and time because you're going to be in your shop sometime between now and next Friday. They're not making a specific trip for that. And now the parts are sitting there with the customer's name on it. So when they show up, there's no wait. Let's get it done.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here because I know there's some shop owners that have started going digital. They're already digital. There's some out there that are sitting there going, my techs would never type on a pad. They won't embrace it. They don't want to use it. What advice do you have for that, John? Because I know there's a lot of people that have been through that, and then they find out that it's just a idea they have in their head a lot of times.
You know, the way I describe this, and this little description is going to help me answer your question. When a person drowns, it's not like you see on TV where they come up and they hold their nose and they do 3 times and they do all this stuff. It's a very gentle thing. And what they're doing, though, is they're trying to keep themselves up. They got their mouth and nose out of order. And what they're doing right now, no matter how inefficient, it's keeping their nose and mouth out of order. They're okay. You throw a ring or you take a pole and you put it out to them, guess what? Some of them will not reach because as soon as they realize they stop doing this, they go underwater. They have to take a step backwards and then they grab and then they're safe. Well, it's that same feeling that a lot of shops get that, oh my God, this is going to slow me down today, maybe tomorrow and next week. But they never see that if they embrace it and take that step backward and start working with it, then it's going to push them forward. You know, as a technician, you have to recognize, okay, I'm trying to figure out a shortcut how to do this so I can, make my time and whatnot. But as a mature technician, you go, whoa, this shortcut's not working. I have to do it the way it's supposed to be done. You realize that taking that step back and doing it the way it should be is going to, in the long run, help you. And that's the thing. We're all narrow-minded and focused on this very moment right here because this vehicle's in front of us and we're going to make the money off of it. But if we let it go, we're going to lose it. But that doesn't happen. You got to be allowed to slip back and know that you're going to. I mean, the first time you picked up a scan tool and you ran it, you didn't get it right. You may have had to fumble with it for a while. It's the same story.
It's true of any technology. There's a learning curve, and it's going to get slow at first and speed up as you get better and better with it.
Well, I got one thing to put on here with this, and that's one of our workshops that we have that's brand new at Drive. It's change management. And what I say this is that I'm going to bring this out. Most companies do not do the prep work before they change a system to their employees to embrace it. And the example I'll give is this right here. Okay, we're going to change systems. We're going to implement a new piece of technology. The email is sent out on Wednesday, and they expected the changes to happen on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no training or nothing. They're just like, here's a new system, use it. And that's it. But the thing is it's when you're applying change into a business, there's a certain procedure that you use to do it. And if you do it, it works right. No matter what, if it's implementing bolt-on technology, it's changing a policy, it's changing the type of vehicles you work on. It's all those are incorporated. And if you use that change management correctly in your business, it goes smooth. If you don't, you're sending out that email on Tuesday and expecting it to change on Wednesday. And then by Friday, everybody's confused.
That is so true. I mean, even when they bring a new tech in, sometimes they just throw them to the wolves, but they don't prep them. Here, what you're saying is gold. If I am in a shop that's considering going digital, we're going to go with bolt-on, okay? The first thing I would do is have a meeting with all the techs and the advisors to say, look, I think it's time for us to move on. I think it's time for us to move ahead because you need to have the buy-in from your people. So bringing them in and having them help you make that decision, that's the first step for buy-in. And then when you make the decision, then you start getting them involved and putting it into place. I mean, the inspections, for example, your technician should have input to what the inspection is, because they're the ones underneath the vehicle and they're the ones doing the job. So if they have to put in input what they need and you set the inspection up that way, they're more apt to do it. So yeah, that's gold. Don't just get the product and throw it at people and say, go ahead, use it. Build up to it and know it. Again, that's that problem with stepping back and losing a little bit of time. before you move forward. Think about alignment racks, for example. When the first digital ones came out and you had the strings and stuff like that, how many people, oh, I can't do that. But now, they're all digital and everything that you learned back then still applies and you can knock out an alignment really quick.
Absolutely. Another
Well,
useful bit of training and change management advice that I've taken and used in the past is that when you're trying to make a transition like this, which is a big transition, and I've been through a number of these types of transitions in my career, one of the things that's very useful is to get one person in your shop to learn it inside and out. Don't try to put the whole team through the training at once. Get one person who can really get it, who can then help push the change along with the rest of the team. And it makes the whole process a lot easier because that guy can help the other guys out when they run into their own confusions.
I think
Absolutely.
not only that, Chris, but there's a big piece that I want to look at, and this goes to every technology platform out there: your shop management system, CRMs, digital inspections. It goes to everything. I would say probably 95% of the shops out there don't use these systems to their fullest capabilities because they don't know. They didn't take the time
They
to
didn't.
learn.
That's right.
And that's part of the pre-step of change management in there that I see on there is learn everything it can possibly do, and then and start planning out and mapping out how you're going to utilize it in your business, because that's the big thing is knowing what it does and then planning and mapping out how you're going to utilize it and how it's going to make the difference in your business is the next step. Because if you, I know, John, you probably see this. There's so many people that probably get a system, get bolt-on system, and they use one function of it. Or they use this function, or use this function only, or it helped me here. This is the problem I was trying to solve in my shop. It fixed that problem, but they didn't realize how much more it could do and utilize it to its fullest potential.
Yeah, absolutely true.
We've walked into shops where they're not even sending the inspections. They're doing them and they're pulling them up in front of customers that are waiting and discussing them just like the old days. And then why did you get it? And then we've also walked into shops that have the whole kit and caboodle, but they're not even using the text functions that they have.
Right. And that's the same type of shop owner who I've had. I say, well, pull this report from your shop management system. I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah.
I only know how to write an RO. That's exactly the kind of mentality that we need to overcome to get the shops really efficient.
Well, think about scan tools. How many of them are just plugging into the connector and pulling the codes and all the other functions, the oscilloscopes and all those other electrical functions built in there that can help you determine what that code's actually telling you, not. Yeah, you understand what I'm trying to say since my mouth just stopped working. But the point is, there's so much equipment out there that they just plug it in, pull the codes, and they put it to the side, and then they start working on. That tool can guide them step by step on some of them and take the readings and everything and tell them what's exactly wrong, not taking that guess because they got a number.
Right.
Well, that goes for a lot of things on there. Like I said, when we're talking about implementing change and setting up systems in your shop and everything, you as a good technician, I'll put it this way, as a good technician, you pull up the diagnostic procedure for a particular code like you're just talking about, and you would not skip steps 1 through 5 and go straight to 7 in most cases. Now, I know there's people that'll do that, but it usually turns up and bites them in the butt because it was step 1 through 5 that they would have found the problem in. And when they finally go back and go step by step, they're like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. So the big thing I look at is letting shop owners know, don't get in that, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Investigate, know the systems, know how they work, and take step by step and implement it. And don't try to get to the end result, which the end result is everybody using the system and it's up and going. Take your steps and your time when you're implementing it.
Take that step backwards and slow down, and you'll be amazed at how much faster you go when you learn how to do it the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
That's that's one of those really big learning experiences for a technician to realize that if I actually do this, I'm going to get good at it and be able to do it faster and get the results and be right, not have to deal with a recheck or anything of that sort.
Correct. So now one of the things that I want to take just a few minutes for, Bolt-On will be at the Drive Expo coming up here in August. And this is a great opportunity to find out about their product, get set up with their product, but also if you're using their product to make sure that you're utilizing it to its fullest capability. They'll have their team there. You'll have time to sit down and visit with them. There's a lot of, they're doing, I believe you guys have an educational talk over there. A lunch and learn with us. So there's a lot of good stuff that Bolt-On can do, and you can learn, am I using it correctly? Am I using it to its full potential? And it's a great way to get in person in front of the Bolt-On team is to be there at the Drive Expo.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people take advantage of that, and they ask, and we sit down with them and we go over, and it's like the light bulb goes on. Now we're going to use half of the software, not just 10% of it, and be really happy.
Okay. Well, we are coming up on our time today, though. Is there any last words that you would like to put into everybody, John? Because I know you have a wealth of knowledge on the systems and how they apply into the shops, but I want to, give you an opportunity to put a last piece in here on what we talked about today.
Well, it's like I discussed earlier, it's change. You got to make a change. If you're still doing things the way you've done for the last 10 years, 20 years, there's something wrong. There's new things in place that your shop can use that are going to benefit you and your customers. And that includes going digital with the tablets and eliminating paper for the most part, doing digital inspections, setting up communications with your customers so they know what's coming up in the future, not a surprise. Oh, by the way, you need $900 worth of tires. Well, if you use these systems properly, you're going to be able to prepare that customer for that tire replacement, and they're going to be more ready to do it when they show up. So there's a lot of change, and it's going to take a step. It's going to take a little bit of work. But if you put it into place and you start using these things, it's almost guaranteed that your shop's going to see a benefit from it. And your customers are going to see a benefit from it. And if they're happy, that means they're coming back. And if they're coming back, that means they trust you, and your shop and them are going to have a great relationship.
Well said.
Awesome.
So thank you for tuning in with us today, John. Thank you everybody at Bolt-On for what you guys do to help shop owners and everything. We're all in this together. We want to see everybody succeed and take their shops to the next level. That's why we do what we do each day. And then for all of our shop owners that are listening today, thank you. Have a great weekend. And then coming up next weekend, we will be on break from our Facebook Live. We won't be on our normal Friday time because we're going to take some time. So let everybody enjoy the 4th of July weekend. So not only have a good weekend this weekend, but have a great 4th of July. And we'll see you back on the 8th of July.